You won't believe this. We still have a lot of ties in the table. Of course, first place, as we mentioned, it is a three-way tie. Alliance, Fnatic, and SK Gaming, all at 14 wins, 10 losses, and that's, of course, with a win streak for both Alliance at 8 and Fnatic at 4. Big differences could happen next week in Super Week. Fourth place, well, it's a tie again. Gambit and Roccat this time at 13 wins, 11 losses. However, Roccat owns in the head-to-head with a record of 3 wins to 0 over Gambit, which means Gambit would, of course, give them the edge in that position.
Now, 6th place, no more ties are left. We have Copenhagen Wolves with 11 wins and 13 losses. And behind them, still chasing this playoff spot, we have Super Hot Crew with 10 wins and 14 losses. And down in the bottom, we have Millennium left alone, 7 wins and 17 losses.
Yeah, they've been saying that we just can't seem to get a win right now. It is time to highlight the 5 players who really managed to impress us in their positions this week. First up, it's Soaz at the top lane. He's had a 10.5 KDA versus Renekton and his Shyvana. And you know, he might not like playing them, but with only 2 deaths and a ton of kills, Soaz showed why he's one of the best top laners around this week.
And I love the way he's playing these bruisers because he's always split pushing, and it works for Alliance the way they split up everything, and he needs to continue playing them. There's nothing else to say.
Meanwhile, of course, Shook in that jungle, 77% kill participation. Everyone on Alliance has been stepping up their game, but 101 has been showing as much improvement as Shook. The past few weeks, he has shown us why players call him one of the best junglers in EU, and his 2 games as Evelyn really did all the talking for him.
And his synergy with both the bot lane from Alliance and also, of course, with Froggen in the mid lane is absolutely beautiful, and that's one of the reasons for Shook. He's doing so well at the moment because Alliance as a team, everything is just working out for them in the early game.
Talking to that mid laner, it is Froggen, of course. 9-1-7 as Zed today versus SK Gaming. You just can't credit Alliance without crediting Froggen for his 7th unique champion in the 8-game win streak. Froggen's pulled out Zed, something he didn't even touch back in Season 3, and he played it with perfection.
Yeah, he was one of the most important players in the game. The fact he got ahead early on, the fact he could 1v1 Candy Panda early on, then he could went up to top lane, 1v1 Freddy and Shyvana, it meant that there was no counterplay for SK Gaming against Froggen on the Zed.
Well, the AD carry is Mr. Rales, and despite only going 1-on-1, he ended up 4-0-12s in the 2 games he played this week. Mr. Rales really stepped it up with his team, especially versus Gambit, going deathless in both those matches. No one brought the OP to AD carry like Mr. Rales.
No, and again, Mr. Rales, it doesn't even matter how his team is doing. He will always get the farm he needs. He will always have perfect position in team fights. And that's what you need from a top AD carry, and he's definitely one of the best AD carries we have.
Finally, of course, Yellowstar on support for Fnatic. He's had a 66% kill participation. That is damn impressive as a support. And that was, of course, in 2 games where he played Karma. With the rotating roster of supports right now, Yellowstar stepped up his game to show us he's not just about tanky supports. Busting out that Karma twice this week, he was a key part in Fnatic's team engagement and disorientating play, especially against the Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, and the Karma really seems to favor Fnatic again. Fast mobility around the map, good rotations, and of course laning with Reckless when you have such a strong support as Yellowstar and as Karma is absolutely perfect.
But for their spectacular gameplay across the week, we have to decide on a most valuable player title. And this went to Alliance's support. It was Nif. He had 14 assists, and well, he last played Leona and Thresh, of course, you mentioned it. He played, what, 6 out of the 7 of those wins. Crazy stuff. He had the LCS big play with his Thresh Lance, and of course saving his captain Froggen, but his plays didn't stop there. Even with Thresh, he finally taken away from him. Nif outpicked and went for Leona against the Morgana, by the way. I managed to speak to him afterwards, and he was like, what counters me? What counters me? Morgana. Oh, crap. It wasn't too sure, but wow, he pulled off some great moves. And you called it at the time. Zenith Blade into a flash Q. Crazy stuff. Did it twice in that game.
Yeah, he played it absolutely perfect. Every single time he engaged, he just baited out the Black Shield from raided and just switched target instantly. Locked someone down, they got a kill. And when you can play Leona like this in laning phase against Morgana, a counter to you, well, you can play everything. And that's the thing for Nif at the moment. He's just making plays all the time. And his team always talk so well about him, always saying, oh, Nif, he's playing fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, I managed to speak to the team afterwards, and they all said Nif played godlike in that game, and we have to agree. So MVP for Nif, fantastic stuff. Remember, the LCS continues on Saturday in North America with, starting off, Dignitas versus Evil Geniuses, and that will be followed by Counterlogic Gaming facing Team Solo Mid, El Clasico in America.
And then we have Team Coast against XDG, and the day will conclude with Curse against Cloud9. And those matches start at 8 p.m. Central European Time, which is 12 noon Pacific.
And we'll return to the European LCS with our final Super Week of the Spring Split, beginning with the LCS preview show next Tuesday, April 1st. And that will be at a very early time, ladies and gentlemen, as 4:30 p.m. Central European Time. That is 7:30 a.m. for you Americans that are watching over on Pacific Time. The 5 big matches are Fnatic versus Alliance. Massive top clash straight away. Then it's Rockout versus the Super Hot Crew. And our final El Clasico of the Spring Split, SK Gaming versus Fnatic.
And then it's on to Millennium against Super Hot Crew, and we'll round things out with the Copenhagen Wolves against Gambit. And after those matches conclude, the European Challenger Series will begin its Spring Series playoff quarter-finals.
Yeah, lots of games to go, and we'll take a quick break, but stay right here because the stage just behind us is being prepared for the second half of the European Challenger Spring Series Finals with the match between Ninjas